Welcome to Season 2 of the Biz Show, sponsored by InvestQuire. And now, your hosts, Barry and Lisa.
Hey, Lisa,
Hi,
how are
Barry.
you? Hi, how are you?
Hi. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Yay.
How you
It's
doing?
I'm doing great. I can't complain. If I did, who's going to listen anyway, right?
Well, I think all of our listeners on here would listen.
Well, they would listen. Okay, who would care? Let's put it that way.
All right.
Well, welcome to the Biz Show, everybody.
Yeah, welcome back.
Yes, this episode, we're going to talk about fundraising lessons and lessons from founders, myself, Lisa, other people, and ways to raise funds for your company, uh, angel investors, standard investors, VCs, so on and so forth.
Probably one of the biggest reasons why people don't start their company, right, Barry? They don't know how to go about getting funds to open up doors, right? To get their company rolling.
Yeah, well, it takes money to make money, right? And if you're going to start a business, you need money.
That's right. So how do we go about doing that?
Well, so there are different phases of investments, right? And investing in a company. Early stage investment, right? Which you're going to see friends and family, and then from there you're going to go to angel investors, and then from there you might go to standard investors or to venture capitalists. And we're going to talk a little bit about those. And we've talked about these particularly in the past, but we're going to talk about some of the do's and don'ts today, right? When you're asking for money, what to say, what not to say, things like that.
Yeah, so everybody needs to take some notes on today's podcast because we have some 10 essential lessons about fundraising that could make or break your journey in getting the monies to begin your company. So let's get started, Barry.
Show me the money.
Show me the money, Jerry
I,
Maguire.
I need money. I need lots of money.
That's
Um,
right.
I don't have any money. I need money.
Mother,
Um,
money doesn't grow on trees.
Darn, that's my problem. I've been shaking a bunch of trees and nothing's coming
Planting
down.
the wrong trees, Bear.
I am. Darn it. Well, let's
Uh,
let's talk about this for a minute, right?
yeah.
So the first reality check, right? When you open up a business and you're looking at investors and you want to ask them for money, they could care less about your company. They could care less about what it's going to do. They're investing in you, right? They're not investing in this big ideal that you have. You have to sell them the ideal, absolutely. But at the end of the day, oh my God, I said it. I haven't said it in so long.
Now it
But
sticks out like a sore thumb.
it does. Um, but honestly, what they're looking at you. They want to know, can they trust you? Do you have the abilities to push this over the goal line? Can you get things figured out? How do you adapt? And can you execute the plan? That's what they're looking at. So that's what you, as a entrepreneur or a founder, need to sell those investors on. You need to sell them
Yeah.
on you.
And really, it comes from like a place of confidence to really know that you have your business plan like tightened up. And so you're able to pitch it and present it to the person that you're seeking the money from, right? To really give them the vision that you have and see if it's aligning with what they're willing to invest in.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are uh, auxiliary resources for you, right? A pitch deck and your business plan.
Yeah.
However, those in themselves are not going to get you a deal. It's you that's going to get you the deal.
Because they'll be vetting you, right? They're going to be vetting you over different conversations and asking you questions different ways to see if it all lines up. If you have
Well, so you
consistent
just nailed
answer.
it.
Yep.
They will ask you the same question five different ways.
Right.
So you need to be on your toes and prepared to answer that question exactly the same. First of all, figure out it's the same question and then answer it all five times.
So
the
they
right
want to
way.
see that you really know what you're doing or you really know your company of, what you're pitching for them to invest in. They want to see how well you know it inside and out, backwards, sideways, upside down, left to right, right?
Right. Here's the funny thing. There's two things that got investors, right? And I'm going to talk about these two things, and you tell me, would you ever invested in it if somebody came to you out of the blue, right? The first one, hey, look, I got this little box. I'm going to put some hay on it and a rock. I'm going to call it a pet rock. Here you go. Um, would you invest in that?
Hell to the no.
Right? It's like none of us would invest in a pet
I don't
rock.
like hay and I don't want a pet rock. What am I
but
going to do with it? What
but
can I
it
possibly
made
do with a pet rock?
but it made hundreds of millions of dollars, right?
Are you talking about chia? Chia?
I'm talking about the pet rock. Yeah, almost the same thing, right? It made hundreds of, it's still out there today. It's a gag gift more than anything else, right? We're going to buy you a pet rock. Easy to
Well,
get.
that's the thing. Yeah. Some investors might miss the boat on a concept or may not believe in it, right? So there's always that angle. So
Right,
that's,
right. And the other one is rubber or plastic poop, dog poop.
oh,
Right. Right. You see those? That's a gag gift too nowadays, but it made hundreds of millions of dollars. People invested in it, they created it. And so the ideals could be so outlandish. These are definitely out there on the far side,
yeah,
but somebody talked investors into investing it, the founders that did this, the creators of this, right? So they had to be really good on their game to get these people to invest in them and to get it going.
right. Funny analogies, but those are all true.
They are funny, but um, look at them. The guys the creators of that and the investors laughed all the way to the bank, didn't they?
Maybe the investor had a sense of humor.
So when you're talking to early stage investors, right? People hear all the time VCs or venture capitalists. Those are not the people you're looking for. You're looking for angel investors, right? Angels or seed investors, right? So you need to see $20,000, $50,000 to get your proof of concept out. Get your MVP, right? MVP stands for minimal viable product. That's the product that, at least at the minimum stages, you're going to go to market with.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of then creates your ideal. It shows that you've got things figured out, you can execute, and now you can start looking at other investors, right? And then you hear companies go through round A, round B, C, D funding, stuff like that, right?
Right.
So a lot of people, though, the first mistakes they made, they got a brand new company, they haven't got anything figured out, they go straight to a VC, right? VC is not going to give you the time of day. However, my suggestion would be to reach out to a VC, venture capitalist, and ask them some questions. Ask them, hey, can I pick your brain for a minute? Here's my idea. What would it take to ping your interest in this company? What milestones do I need to hit that you might think this is viable to invest in? That's a good
Right.
point, right?
Exactly. Then you'll know exactly how to put it all together in order to attract the investors to provide you money, right?
Right,
So
exactly. And
definitely.
do this for a couple different investors, right? Because every investor has their own likes and desires and wants and needs. So
Right.
investor A versus investor C and versus investor D are going to have different wants and needs.
Yeah, you might want to cover the gamut so that you could hit the pain points of different people, different investors.
Right. The other thing is don't ask for too much right off the bat, right? Instead of asking for 10 million or 5 million or whatever, you might want to ask for a couple 100,000 or even something like 100,000 to get started, to get your MVP going. Investors like to invest with other investors. So it's finding that one that will first take the initial invest. And then once you got them, it's a little bit easier to roll down.
Get others. Yeah, because they
Yeah,
probably figure, oh, hey, the first investor, likes the idea. So maybe it's a likable idea, right? And then it creates the confidence and the trust for other investors to jump on board. So, yep.
Yeah, definitely. So, asking for smaller amounts, actually, you look better in the eyes of the investors, because if you ask for less, they know you need more, but they want to see how resourceful you can be, right? And how you can get stuff figured out and make work with what you got.
Right.
And that just makes good business sense, right? As you build a business, right? To be able to run a lean company, not always just throw dollars at it to make it work. Sometimes, you've got to just sit back, re review what you've done, and figure out a leaner way, a better way to get it done.
Yeah, baby steps.
Yeah, definitely. So, there are some challenges though when you're raising funds for your company, right? And there's basically four challenges, right? And those challenges are time is one of them, right? Use
Yeah, well,
invest. Go
Rome
ahead.
wasn't built in a day, so you got to have the patience, right, to persevere through some of the rejections and waiting on people to make decisions, right? You got to kind of like ping them or hit them up more than one time to see if you can get them to complete the review of what you're proposing and, give you an answer. It takes time.
It does,
It does,
and you said a couple things there, and you got to have a thick skin, because you're going to hear a lot of no's,
Yes.
right? And you and I both know, being in you more so in the sales side of things, uh, how many people you go through before you finally get a yes,
Exactly. I mean,
right?
rejection is going to be a part of it for sure.
And don't take it personal. It's not personal. It's just somebody doesn't understand what you're saying to them. Maybe you didn't communicate it right, and you need to work on that. But maybe they just don't. It's not their bag. You know,
Yeah.
just
Or it's a
something else.
timing thing. They may not have
Yeah,
the monies available at the time that you're asking, or they may have just made it an investment with something else and it's just not the right time for them.
right. But timing is critical. You need lots of time, right? It's not going to happen immediately. And not only that, but there's going to be meetings. And after those meetings, there's going to be more meetings. And then there's going to be questions.
Exactly.
There's going to be
Right.
questions. And then you
Well,
got to
they
wait on a decision. And then the negotiation starts, right?
that in and of itself could also be a strategy of the investor because they want to see if they could break you down or if you do you have the resilience to be adaptable to pitfalls or obstacles or the length of time it might make for somebody to make a decision. And that could happen with your company once it's open, once your doors are open up and running. You may have to wait for those sales to come in and those clients to kind of build up in your pipeline. So they want to make sure that you are a resilient owner with strategies and patience and um, ability to adapt to whatever's coming at you from an outsider, right? In this
Right.
case, it would be when
Yeah.
your business is open, it would be a client, and you don't always get that yes right away. So you just have to, maybe pivot and try a different sales approach, right? So
Yeah.
reminding them that the investment is worth their while is part of your job. Is, in seeking the money, you have to, constantly pitch it to them, maybe pitch it to them a different way to where you say it something, somewhat differently. And it sort of like rings a bell in their head, like, oh yeah, this would work. You want to constantly be able to pivot and adjust to maybe, when the doors are closing or somebody's rejecting you, then maybe you got to pitch it a different way and just come up with another way to approach an investor.
Exactly. Investor relations basically is what we're talking about here, right? And a lot of companies, it's probably one of the hardest jobs in a corporation, investor relations, just because of that, right? And the next thing we said, time is and we talked about this already, rejection, right? And just you, but know this: no doesn't necessarily mean no, right? You know, it might be, as you said, timing or whatever the case might be. So interesting. So the next one is what?
Well, typically when people run out of patience, they get desperate.
That
So that
is
is
it.
such a turnoff.
That is the sword of death, right?
That just
When
shows you
you
have a lack of confidence because you're becoming desperate. So why are you so desperate? That's my
right.
question. See somebody act like that, there's got to be something wrong. There's got to be something they're covering up, or maybe something that's not really viable with regards to their business idea.
Well, yeah, who knows what it's going to be, right? Desperation is people can sense it and smell it, right? And it's a complete turnoff. You got to have that confidence. If you don't have that confidence, you're going to get, kicked right out the door.
Right, exactly. And then what if they do secure the investment?
Well, you
Then
keep
what?
going, right? So momentum. You've gotten somebody invested, but you keep going. You find more investors, right?
So don't stop there, keep going.
Don't stop. Keep going, right?
Is that
Obviously, now you found a formula that works.
okay?
Use it again, fine tune it, use it again, fine tune it. How many investors do you need, right? If let's say that you're talking to angel investors and you want 100,000, but somebody says, I'm only going to give you 25. Okay, that's great. That's an investor. He's going to invest 25,000. Guess what? You need three more of those, right? For your 100,000. Keep going,
Right.
right?
Don't lose that momentum. Exactly.
Yeah, I remember when we were raising capital for a past company, and we had raised what we wanted to raise, and the efforts were stopped in raising. They shut down investor relations, and then about a year later, oh crap, we need to roll it back up and start it back up again because we need more funding. And basically, what happened is they lost a year worth of investor relations and funding that they had to start all over.
Oh man, yeah. So that's like pitching a whole new company almost.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the thing is what worked a year ago doesn't necessarily work now. So, yeah, you start out with that, but you got to refine and fine tune it and stuff like that. So,
Right.
definitely.
So when the money's when you get ultimately you get the investor to provide you the money, it doesn't stop there. I mean, your relationship is a long-term relationship at that point, and they want to be able to enjoy the success alongside with you, right?
Right, that's key. So communication and the relationship. When you get an investor and they pay you that 25,000, that $100,000,
Yeah.
that's not the end. That's just the beginning of the relationship, right? They've invested that money. Now they want to know what they're getting for that, right? So you need to communicate to them, give them status reports, whatever the case might be, of what's happening, what's going on, what's happening. What are you doing with their money? Is it going to
Hmm.
payroll? Is it going to R&D? What's it going to? Keep them
Yeah, now
updated.
you're in bed with them, so you're truly a partner. So
Well,
definitely keep that line of communication rolling each step of the way.
yeah, exactly. I mean, the bottom line is they invested in you once. There's a real good chance they might invest in you again.
Exactly.
If you built that trust, they like you and they like what you're doing, they're going to invest again, right? So, and now they might invest more. I've known people who were angel investors, and then they turned out to be a significant investor in a company. So, okay, yeah, I'll give you 50,000, and then a year later they gave them 5 million.
Wow. From 50 to 5 million. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So this was a company I worked for a long time ago, a tech company when we were first getting it started out. I wasn't the owner or anything like that, but yeah. So, anyways, you gotta keep nurturing those relationships, right? Those relationships can turn into a lot of things. And not only that, but they have friends, right? So they can. I always, ask them, do you know anyone else who might be interested in this,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And
right?
definitely don't overpromise and underdeliver. Definitely set the expectation as to how often you'll keep them engaged in the process of what's happening, and definitely have integrity with that plan and keep the communication open and keep their expectations, uh, where you can achieve those. Don't overpromise.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
I
you set
actually,
yourself up for failure.
you do sometimes, and it happens to all of us, absolutely. But I always try to under commit and over deliver. But
Exactly. It's a
every
nice.
once in a while, you get nipped in the rear, and it backfires, and something goes wrong. And what can you do about it? But you got to be honest about it, right?
Absolutely.
So that's life. There's checks and balances, even in business. There's checks and balances, and there's going to be good times and there's going to be bad times.
Well, especially when there's no really good news to report, people tend to just shy away from communicating and not, giving an update. But I think that's the most important time to give an update because then, it keeps everybody in the loop and maybe they're able to offer some moral support, if not maybe an idea of how to help you at that juncture.
Yeah,
So I think it's important, even if, you're not able to communicate any like huge strides or excellent developments with the company, I would definitely communicate even, if it was bad news or no news at all. Just always
right.
be,
And if
yeah,
it is bad news, hopefully you got a plan to fix it, right?
yeah,
So, um, you know, the other thing I would suggest to our listeners is if you are looking for and you get investors, you should get to know them. Perhaps they can become your mentors, coaches, and help you understand finance and business a little bit better as well,
right.
right? Obviously, they've been there and they've done that. They got the money, you don't.
Right. And don't be afraid to ask questions.
You know, I've said this many times in our podcast throughout the year, last year, and our episodes, our seasons. Um, Even if you've made it to the very tip top and you're the CEO of a large company, you still need to have coaches, mentors, and somebody who's mentoring you, right? And
Mhm.
it's always good to have that to fall back on. And maybe you guys are equals, but it's always good to bounce ideas off them and stuff like that, and maybe get some ideas from them.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Different different perspectives. That's why I think you and I work well together, right? Because we come from different sides. You come from real estate, I come from corporate America, and we kind of just gel in. I mean, there's differences, absolutely, but we still can see and come up with some type of a plan.
Yeah. Always be open to learn, right? We don't know it all,
I'm a
no matter
sponge. I
where you.
learn
Hmm.
exactly. All right, well, that kind of wraps up this episode.
Yeah, that was a great one, Barry. Hopefully everybody got a nugget out of it and there was some clear message in this about communication and not giving up and just keep knocking on those doors and maybe be open to altering your pitch and asking some investors what they're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key thing, right? How do you know? And again, something I've said forever. How do you know what you don't know if you don't know what you don't know? And if you don't know what the investors are looking for, how do you find out? You ask.
To ask the question. So if you
Yeah.
guys have any questions for us, feel free to reach out to us through our Facebook page called The Biz Show. Or you can reach Barry and I through the website. Our contact information is there at www.investquire.com.
Yes. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you. Have a great week, you guys. Bye.
Bye.